On Tomorrow's World Today, we explore the cutting-edge advances that are shaping 4 different worlds. The world of inspiration, where the wonders of the natural world amaze and inspire us. The world of creation, where ideas come to life from traditional arts. The world of innovation, where ideas and inventions move us all forward. The world of production, where innovations are mass-produced to improve our lives. From Invention Land World Headquarters, here's your host, George Davison.
Did you know that your body's constantly writing a hidden history? Every day, billions of your cells are shedding tiny fragments of their DNA into your bloodstream. It's a molecular code of who you are. Welcome to Tomorrow's World Today. Now, for centuries, this code was invisible to us, a secret written in a language we simply couldn't see. The quest to see cancer? Well, it all began in ancient Egypt, where Edwin Smith Papyrus first described bulging tumors nearly 5,000 years ago. But for most of history, we could only find cancer once it was large enough to feel. Now that changed in 1928, when Dr. Papanicolaou, he developed a pap smear to detect cancer at the cellular level for the first time. And he proved that if we could see the change early enough, we could change the outcome. Now, by the 1960s, imaging techniques such as mammography, well, it allowed us to see what the human eye couldn't see. But even then, we were looking for masses. The real turning point, it arrived when we stopped looking for the lump and started looking for the signal. We realized that cancer actually leaves microscopic fingerprints in our blood long before a physical mass ever appears. Now today, we're moving beyond just scanning the body. We're sequencing our survival. We're entering an era where a simple blood draw can reveal the earliest signals of many types of cancer. So I want to learn more about this. And I'm going to send Greg to the world of innovation in Madison, Wisconsin to show us the latest advancements in cancer screening.
For decades, one of the primary goals of modern medicine has been to find a cure for cancer. While there are many different types of cancer, what they have in common is that very often successful treatment comes down to one thing: early detection. And that's why we're here in Madison, Wisconsin, to meet with the makers of the Cancerguard test. And together, we'll explore how they're helping to win the battle against this disease today and in tomorrow's world.
I sat down with Dr. Baer, Chief Medical Officer for Multi-Cancer Early Detection at Abbott Cancer Diagnostics, to explore their blood test, which uses DNA biomarkers to screen for multiple cancers.
Dr. Baer, tell me about what was the impetus for developing Cancerguard as a test? What was the need for that?
Well, first of all, we know that when we detect cancers earlier, people have better outcomes, a higher probability of curative therapy, less aggressive treatment necessary. But today we only screen for 4 or 5 common cancers. And so about 70% of cancer diagnoses and 70% of cancer deaths are due to cancers that we don't have any screening tests for. That's the reason for developing Cancerguard.
Well, why did it take so long for us to get to this point? I mean, you know, there's been so much advancement in cancer care and oncology. Why did it take this long to get to this point?
Well, for a long time, the field has focused on developing single cancer screening tests, and it takes a decade or 2 to develop the evidence necessary to prove that these tests are useful. But focusing one cancer at a time has an inherent limitation once you get beyond the most common cancers. And so it's really been impossible to address those other cancers like pancreatic cancer, ovarian cancer, and others until we developed a multi-cancer approach like Cancerguard.
Right, so multi-cancer early detection is really what Cancerguard is all about. But the story that it's looking for is actually in the blood.
Yeah, so it turns out that cancers secrete into the bloodstream what we call biomarkers, or minute concentrations of cancer DNA or cancer-associated proteins. Those are the kinds of markers that we look for in the blood with Cancerguard, and we put together these multiple measurements into a single algorithm that tells us whether we should be concerned about a cancer or not.
Okay, so the blood basically tells the story.
Yes.
In this. So a lot of folks would probably compare this a bit with Cologuard, which is an at-home screening for colon cancer. But rather than making a sample at home and sending it in, this is a blood draw.
Yes, I think there are some similarities and lessons from Cologuard, but also some differences. Cologuard proved to us that we can use the detection of DNA biomarkers to pick up a cancer early. That's a critical advance. But the difference is that Cancerguard is a blood test. So it's not an at-home stool test like Cologuard. You can get your blood drawn at home with what we call mobile phlebotomy, or a person who can draw your blood. They can come to your home. You can also get that at a brick and mortar laboratory or in a doctor's clinic or a hospital.
Great. Well, now Cancerguard itself, so it's not a diagnosis. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have cancer, but it is a screening that will let you know that you should talk to your doctor further.
Yeah, so just like other screening tests that you can think about, Cologuard, we've already talked about, mammography and so on and so forth. Cancerguard gives a signal that triggers us to look and determine whether a cancer is present or not. So most of the time, one can expect a negative result, meaning no further workup is necessary. But when we get a positive result that is not a diagnosis of cancer, it is a signal that we need to do more to rule in or rule out the presence of cancer.
Right, so, mammographies and things like this, this is not to take that place.
No, mammography, colorectal cancer screening, lung cancer screening if you're a smoker, cervical cancer screening, perhaps PSA testing are really well-established, proven screening approaches, and Cancerguard is designed to work in concert with those, not as a replacement.
Great. Well, doctor, thank you very much. Don't go too far. We're going to catch up again later.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
I'm going to meet with Dr. Michelle Beitelschieß, Director of Medical Affairs for Multi-Cancer Early Detection, to discuss a positive result and care navigation services.
So, doctor, who are the folks that the Cancerguard test is really designed for?
Yeah, the test is indicated for individuals, adults, who have not had a prior history of cancer in the previous 3 years. Now, certainly there are risk factors, if you will, or perhaps even a family history that someone might have. They may have known genetic predisposition or may not know their genetic predisposition, but the Cancerguard test could be right for them.
So a family history isn't necessarily an indicator of a genetic predisposition, as you say.
That's correct. A lot of people don't know their family history, but certainly they have relatives and know of different cancers that have popped up in their family, so this technology might be valuable to them.
Right, right. Well, let's kind of walk through the test itself. Take me through the process.
So as it relates to getting the Cancerguard test, it can be ordered by your provider, or you can request it to be ordered through our website.
So it still needs to be prescribed by a medical provider?
Yes, it needs to be prescribed by a medical provider. And once that's done, then you get a kit and you're able to take it to a blood draw station. We actually have phlebotomists that can come to your home and actually collect the blood. And so once that's done, the blood then goes to the laboratory where the assays are performed, and then a patient is given a final report.
Okay, well, so let's talk about those results. What if you get a negative result?
So the negative result is actually quite valuable, right? That means that there's no cancer signal detected, which is a great thing. Now, certainly there might be situations where there is a cancer, but the test missed it. But overall, no cancer signal detected is a very good thing.
Well, let's look at the opposite as well. How about if a patient gets a positive result?
Yeah, so if there is a positive result, we call that a cancer signal detected. And what that means is that our assay picked up some of the biological biomarkers in the blood. Now, this certainly is not diagnostic. It doesn't necessarily mean you have cancer. What it means is the assay picked up a signal, and so it requires further workup to what we call localize and potentially diagnose a cancer if it in fact exists.
Excellent. Well, let's talk a little bit about the blood itself. What are the things that the Cancerguard test is looking for in that sample?
So the Cancerguard test is the only test that looks at a multi-biomarker class approach. And what that means is we evaluate 2 different biomarker classes. That would be circulating tumor DNA as well as proteins. And those 2 biomarker classes are important because this is what is released from the cancer tumor cells. And we're able to pick that up as part of our assay. And what we do is we look at each of those biomarker classes individually, and then we combine them together through an algorithm and are able to provide that result of no cancer signal detected or cancer signal detected.
So once that positive result comes back, what other sorts of supports are available through the Cancerguard network?
Yeah, once you do get a positive result, we provide care navigation, not just to the patient, but also to the provider. And so from the provider perspective, we're available to answer any questions that they might have, provide educational support. We have a fantastic field medical team and a laboratory director that's there to answer questions. And then from a patient perspective, we have a dedicated team of individuals that are able to support the patient along their journey, whether that's talking to their insurance company, helping them to get to imaging needed to localize and diagnose that potential cancer. But I think one of the most important assets that we offer for the patients and support is the patient reimbursement program for imaging services. So we offer up to $6,000 to the patient for non-covered imaging costs.
Wow, that's really excellent. Well, doctor, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I reconnected with Dr. Tom Baer to examine the significant economic impact of early cancer detection.
Doctor, let's talk about the economic advantage of an early detection versus the long-term impact of a later diagnosis.
Yeah, so we know that treatment of earlier stages of cancer is not only more straightforward and often more successful, but it is usually much less expensive than treatment for advanced cancer, especially when the cancer gets to stage 4, where often multiple treatments are required with very expensive agents.
Now, Cancerguard currently is still a self-pay test, but if you maybe have concerns over family history or maybe where you were working, it still seems as though it would be an investment in your long-term health.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Cancerguard is available today as a self-pay test. Our long-term goal is to have the test be FDA approved, widely available and reimbursed by insurance so that everyone can access it. In the meantime, we wanted to make the test available as soon as possible to as many people as we can. And we're also learning a great deal by having the test available to people today.
Excellent. Well, doctor, again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I had a chance to meet with Allison Berry, a Cancerguard employee, to discuss her journey after receiving a positive test result.
Hi, Allison.
Hi, Greg.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. So, Allison, you work for the company, but you also have a really personal connection to the Cancerguard test. Tell me about that.
Sure. So I've been working for the company for a little over 5 years. What brought me to the company was the Cancerguard test when it was still in development. I work on communications for the company and for the test. So the first day it was available, I was really excited to order it. I wanted to know what it was like, the whole process, so I could go out and talk about it confidently. I never expected the result to be a positive, but in fact it was.
Wow. What's the next step after you get that positive result?
Sure. So a positive test result doesn't automatically mean that you have cancer. You need to follow up with your primary care physician, and that's exactly what I did a few days later. And at that appointment, my physician ordered a set of 3 CT scans, one of my neck, one of my chest, and one of my abdomen and my pelvis. When those test results came back, they revealed a 22-centimeter likely malignant tumor on my right ovary.
Wow, did you have to immediately undergo surgery?
I did. I was scheduled for surgery pretty quickly afterward, and it was a 5-hour surgery. They were able to remove the entire tumor. They did dozens of biopsies. Those all came back negative, and the final pathology revealed a stage 1 ovarian cancer.
Wow, so did you have to do any follow-up, chemo, radiation, anything like that?
I did not, and I was very fortunate in the fact that my specific type of ovarian cancer is very rare, and it's known to be resistant to chemotherapy. So finding it in an early stage was really, really important for me to just move forward with my life.
Right, it would have been much more difficult to deal with later on.
Very much so.
Wow, okay, well, and now you're doing well, you're cancer-free?
I am.
Excellent, excellent. Well, show me how you signed up for the test and how somebody can just get online and take care of this for themselves.
Sure, yeah, you just go right to Cancerguard.com. It's really easy. You can go on a computer, you can go on your phone, and you just hit request online. You answer a few questions, you put in your information, and it goes to a medical professional to review. And you can also go see your primary care physician at your next appointment, request the test there. So it's really easy.
Excellent. So it's like signing up for just about any other website that you would find.
It sure is, yeah.
All right, excellent. Well, Allison, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Greg.
I'm meeting with David Harding, Senior Vice President of Pipeline Product Management, to talk about the future of cancer screenings. Hi, David. Welcome to Invention Land.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, George.
You know, I'm excited for you to be here because this field of cancer and trying to identify cancer earlier, that's of interest to me. And like even the whole history of cancer. You know, back in the old days, you'd see a lump, maybe touch that, and know you have a problem. And then, of course, innovation happens, and screening was invented, and mammography became a thing. And now we've moved again into the future where now we're looking at the blood, and it's starting to indicate that we may or may not have a cancer. But being able to find that out so early, that's a really important piece of work. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, I mean, it really is interesting to look at the arc of, how cancer screening has evolved over the decades. And I think we're at a fundamental transition point here where now that we can understand molecularly what's happening in the blood and get these very small, tiny signals from cancers that may be in your body, we have the ability to really revolutionize cancer screening and change it in a way that's fundamentally different.
That's exciting to me. And the way I'd like to think about it is, it's like all innovations and technologies. When they first come out, they can be a little unnerving. Should I give that a try? And so I was thinking about, how do we get across to the audience out there that this could be a better way of, identifying whether or not you may have cancer, right?
Yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge that, yes, there is a certain amount of anxiety that comes with any kind of medical testing, but then I think you need to think about the impact of what this might do. All of us have friends and family members who have been detected with late-stage cancer, and we all know the pain and suffering and cost that comes with that to not only the patient, but also to their family. And I think you need to really understand that, detecting that cancer early makes a massive difference in the life of that patient and the family. And so I think we need to think about what's possible, right? And be courageous and move forward with this kind of testing that can fundamentally expand the number of cancers that we can detect and potentially detect them much earlier when there's a chance to treat them much more effectively. So that's what gives me the courage to move forward, and what I would encourage everybody to think about as they adopt this new technology.
Yeah, and so trying to get the general population to understand that this is a big advance and that they should take a chance and go get this done. But I think there's always like a step in the process of getting innovations and technology to market. So how do we get doctors informed so that, you know, they're more apt to adopt what's going on here? I mean, what kind of things would you run into in the field?
Yeah, typically what I would say is, doctor, have you ever had a patient come in who was worried about something like, you know, a pancreatic cancer or ovarian cancer, these very aggressive, you know, very high mortality cancers? Have they ever asked you, like, what can I do? I'm doing all my other screening tests. What can I do to, you know, maybe detect those cancers earlier? And now we have a solution for that, right? It's a very revolutionary solution that really broadens the tools that you have, Doc, available.
Right.
To help screen that patient. And I think most doctors really understand that very intuitively.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. You guys are chasing a noble cause. David, thanks for everything you and your team have been working on. Well, everybody, that's another edition of Tomorrow's World Today, and we'll see you next time. So, David, I've got this new stuff we're working on in the lab. And remember, tomorrow's world is where inspiration and creation drive innovation in production. See you next time.